as we prepare to end the Skip Barber Championship this season. Well, last week we went to the home of the United States Grand Prix, and tonight we are going to come to the home of the Canadian Grand Prix. It's the penultimate round of the Skip Barber Racing School Championship, live from Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal. Don't go away. Welcome back here to RaceSpot TV and iRacing Live as coverage comes at you from the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve in Montreal. Randy Cheneth, Alvin Nieves, Gilles Louis bringing you all the action tonight. So 13 corners and, well, a 4.3 kilometer long lap around this place, Alvin. That long back straightaway, we're going to see a lot of slipstreaming tonight.
That is definitely one of the key points here in this track, that long back straight. Really interesting. Now, it is preceded by the hairpin, so that also can bring its own element of surprise because I think we are going to see some cars try to dive to the inside way before, and that could set some interesting racing going into the chicane and into the Wall of Champions.
Interesting turn one at this circuit, as well as qualifying currently underway. Lap time has cycled through instantly enough. We have Justin Tipton currently topping the boards. There's a few names that are notably absent tonight. Justin Tipton, 152.0 after the first time around this racetrack, currently holds the pole position. Expect people to cycle through at the end of their second lap here within the next 60 or so seconds. But a lot of interesting corners around this place, Alvin, and it's an interesting turn one, turn two section, then followed by turn three, turn four, a very interesting chicane as well. 6, 7, of course, another segment of this track that's like the 8, 9. A lot of chicanes around this racetrack. Something that a lot of people, I think, forget about this place is how chicane filled it is. That hairpin you talked about, but of course the most notorious corner of all, that Wall of Champions at the end of that casino straight, corner number 12 and 13, easily the most famous complex on this racetrack. And I think that we might be able to escape this place without a number of drivers getting thrown into it, but at the same time, it's never a race at Montreal unless a race leader throws themselves into that pit wall.
And if we go by any chance that the last race we got in here in the Skip Barbers, yeah, we had 1 or 2 drivers visit that Wall of Champions. But yeah, it is a really interesting track because as you cross the start finish line, you go into that turn 1, turn 2, 3 complex. It is a relatively open portion of the track, but as soon as you get past turn 3, it is pretty much a wall canyon that you really have to be careful because there is not really much of an escape road if you kind of mess it up just a little bit, and you really have to be careful, especially in these cars, considering there is no ABS at all. You have to be really careful.
Taking a look at the championship standings, we've talked a lot this season about Diogo Francisco. He led for the majority of this championship. Well, times have changed, and as you can see, it's Felipe Bear topping the charts with Adecobo Lopez in second. Diogo's fallen down to that third spot, only a couple of points behind Ade, so a decent opportunity there for him to potentially close in. Then you got Precario, Jordi Lopez riding out your top 5 with Tipton and Grucher, Fielder, Hervias, and Sainz rounding out the rest of the field. 30 seconds counting down until the end of qualifying. And, well, Justin Tipton, he's put in pretty much the best qualifying we've seen in a while from him, Alvin.
Definitely a great qualifying there by Justin Tipton, but Ricardo Lopez still on track, and I think that's gonna be pretty much all for him. He did a 152.7, so really interesting. Him starting in what is P number 14. How will Ricardo Lopez in that number 1 car, how will he be able to manage through the field? And Randy, this is gonna be one tough track to do so.
Counter officially hit 0, and drivers are now allowed to take the grid. So 2 minutes until we go green here for round number 11 at Montreal. And before we do that, we need to go down your 16 cars that'll be starting the 13-lap event here, 12-lap event here tonight from Montreal. Justin Tipton, he's on pole with 151.816 with Javier Munoz Dominguez in that second spot. Jordi Lopez and Diogo Francisco, they can't come up on row number 2 with Greg Seitz and Yemi Simone on row number 3. Andre Shibalik and Daniel Barrison on row 4 with Juan Dalmasas Torres and Michael Fiedler, they make up row 5. Andrew Picario and Edwin Valerino are on row 6 with Carl Dronke and Ade Cobo Lopez on row 7. That number 1 car, I think, is going to be flying through this field with Julia Prost Albert and Jesus Martin Tamero bringing up the rear of the 16-car field tonight. So, from the home of the United States Grand Prix at Circuit of the Americas, we come to the home of the Canadian Grand Prix. One of the Grand Prix that most fans would call their favorite. Also, always have interesting races here in that World Championship. As these cars get to set the grid, will we have an interesting race here with the draft in these slow Skip Barber Formula 2000 cars? Or will someone be able to run away with it? Will there be calamity in one of the tight chicanes around this racetrack? Or will it be clean and green all the way through? We are getting ready to find out as drivers have 30 more seconds to get themselves onto this starting grid. And I believe the last driver has just done so. So expect the lights on the iRacing gantry to come on in just a moment. And that will prepare these drivers for getting released as we just wait now for that counter to count down. And then it's all about watching Justin Tipton and the likes of the rest of your race leaders of Dominguez, Lopez, and Francisco going in towards turn 1. Revs are beginning to build as the lights are on. And we are green from Montreal. It's not a fantastic start from Justin Tipton. We haven't had a change for position for the race lead in turn 1 in quite a while. And the 11 of Dominguez is going to take a look into turn 1. But Justin is going to shut the door, and he runs a very, very defensive line into turn 2 as well. Through that turn 1 and 2 complex for the first time. It looks like everyone's going to get through clean. One driver did not take the grid. That was actually the one of Ade Cobo Lopez. So he is not going to be a factor in this at all, as they all now head down to the turns 3-4 complex. Now through the right-hand kink at turn number 5, very close to the wall for the first time. This is the first time you really start pushing the limits, and there's a crash in the background. The 6th car involved in this, as well as Jesus Martin Tamero, I think. So the second chicane is where calamity strikes.
Second chicane, and we already had trouble, but out the front of the field, Justin Tipton, what a fantastic start he had, but Javier Munoz Dominguez there in P number 2, being able to follow closely, and Jordi Lopez Jr., the winner of last week's race, running in P3, look for him to make a move.
Now here they come down in towards that hairpin for the first time. Your race leader, you see one big long train of cars, and I don't think that train of cars is going to get very strung out if these guys play it smart. Jordi Lopez Jr. under attack from 1 point leader Diogo Francisco in now towards that hairpin, and now they're going to work themselves down onto the long back straightaway, and this is where the wind tunnel testing is going to come into effect. Justin Tipton leads here, nearing the completion of lap number 1. Will he lead the end of lap number 1 as they run now down towards the end of this final long straightaway? And I think Justin, he's going to be able to hold on to this. No one's really close to him, including Dominguez, not quite close enough to be able to get that race lead. So under that Dodge bridge and hard onto the brakes, down a few gears and through the wall of champions chicane. The 5 machine gets it on the opening lap. Justin Tipton, first time through the wall of champions chicane, he collects himself on that wall, and they're going to be 3 abreast for your race lead across the stripe. It's going to be the 3 machine of Jordi Lopez Jr. who leads that lap, and down into corner number 1 for the second time. He works the outside. One driver down low. The 11 of Dominguez gets loose, and the 4 Diogo Francisco muscles his way into the second spot. Justin Tipton looked to have the greatest run he's had in a while, Alvin, and he just threw it away on the end of the first lap.
Well, Randy, you just mentioned it. It isn't a race in Montreal unless the leader strikes the wall of champions, and that is what Justin Tipton just did. Lap number 1, and he just struck the wall of champions, and he is falling behind big time. Definitely, absolutely massive damage to that car. I think his race is done, but we also had somebody spinning out on the back of the field as well, and I think that is Michael Fiedler.
So Mr. Fiedler apparently having some issues and going around, as everyone else is pretty much going to be staying calm, cool, and collected here. Trying to look at what happened to Michael in that 10 car, and this is going into the second chicane. He just threw that right-hand kick. You can typically keep it flat, but the 10 car never was able to get down to the apex. He had a slow number 16 of Daniel Barrison right out in front of him, and now through that last section he goes. See that 10 machine spin out, and didn't really hit anything too hard. He sort of brushed the wall and opted to call it quits as Jordi Lopez Jr. is going to continue to lead the way now through this hairpin and on towards the back straightaway. Once again, he has a big gap over that second place runner of Diogo Francisco, who was scored 4th at the stripe but was slotted into 2nd by the time they got through those first couple of corners. So Jordi should be nice, calm, cool, and collected here, at least this time through the wall champion chicane. He's not going to have a lot of pressure from behind, but there is slicing and dicing for positions in the back. Greg Seitz is making a move on Jamie Simone. He's going to pick that spot up, and well, Diogo Francisco is going to hold on to that second spot as well, as Jordi Lopez is going to work himself down this front straightaway. It's a lot of times misconceived how long this front straightaway often is. We're used to seeing the F1 cars whiz by here at 160, but once you get these guys out there running only about 110, 115, you respect how long that front straight is, and that's going to be a factor with the slipstreaming as well. Jordi has opened himself up just under a 0.6 of a second advantage as they cross the time, being that time through, and everyone in your lead pack still very, very close. Top 6 all separated by 1.8 seconds. You got about a 7-car train for your race lead. The next car in line is going to be Justin Tipton, who's fallen back from the race lead on pole back to 8th.
Yeah, definitely that is very unfortunate there for Justin Tipton in card number 5. But now watching a replay of card number 6 with Elvin Ballarino as he goes into turn number 1. Let's see exactly what happens to him going into turn number 2. Just a little, has to open the door just a little bit for the car in front to go in there. Now coming here into what is essentially the first chicane here on the racetrack, and it kind of looks like he got stuck from behind. It kind of seems like well, tumbling goes.
Yeah, upside down he went there after that turn one, that lap 1 incident, but we've been mostly clean with the exception of that. Basically people making individual mistakes such as Justin on now towards the casino straight once again, and let's see if anyone is going to get aggressive with the slipstream. It's going to be the 1/4 distance at the end of the lap here. Only 12 laps on the board, and that's what we expect given the lap distance around this place as they head now down towards that wall of champions chicane once again. Diogo Francisco closing dramatically with the slipstream. Not going to be able to do anything with it just yet though. 0.6 of a second pretty much last time through here, and they're now all going to hop the curbs. A little bit of a slide there from Diogo, and 4th place of Greg Seitz. He gets a big wobble as well, but is able to hold on to it. And coming now towards your timing beam at start finish, Jordi Lopez is going to look and say, well, that gap behind me just down that long back straightaway came down by a full 0.2 of a second. I think we're going to see Diogo Francisco really harassing that 3 car once they get into that wall of champions chicane this time through, Alvin.
And now the question is, we had a crash there. Car number 9, Jaume Dalmaza had a crash going into turn number 2. Let's see what happened to him.
The 9 machine, it would started at corner number 1, and I believe it started with a teammate, Jamie Simone. He tried to pass him on the inside in turn 1 and pretty much just ended up getting turned around. I think both of those cars should still be out and running. It wasn't too hard of a hit for either driver. It didn't look like it was race ending, but he still ends up facing the wrong way, and actually I think he might have a bit of steering damage, Judge Juan Torres, so he's going to be dropping dramatically to the back of the field is that number 9 machine. But keep an eye on your race lead. That 4-car Diogo Francisco doing a good job to manage the gap through that sort of 3rd chicane there. You see that 3 machine uses the curves a lot more aggressive than the 4 of Diogo Francisco. So Diogo maybe not quite having the suspension set up the way you would like. Now into the hairpin for the 4th time. This is where you're going to set yourself up for the run onto this back straightaway. It's hugely important for Jordi Lopez, and for Diogo Francisco, all he has to do is not ruin the run run through this, and he should be able to use the slipstream to reel this 3 machine back in. So underneath now, a couple of the bridges that line this, the first being the Bovada Bridge, then the next one should be that Dodge Dart Bridge down this long back straightaway. Diogo's going to cut out of the slipstream, likely trying to manage the engine temperatures and realizing things are still early. No need to go too aggressive this one. And now into the final corner they come once again. All top 3, all just line astern, nose to tail, very close to one another. They get ready to come across. Now your start finish once again. Looking for battles up and down the field, Alvin. With some of these cars getting themselves into solo issues, we've lost a lot of the field and really not much fighting outside of this lead trio.
And this race was going to be just a matter of trying to keep the car clean. And, well, we have seen a couple of cars just getting involved into issues as Diego Francisco gets a look on the inside coming here into what is the first chicane, but decides to hold still for now. But yeah, this was going to be one of the main issues, trying to keep the car clean. This track is very unforgiving and you really have to be on your toes. Mistakes, you are going to pay dearly for them, and I think that for now, Diego Francisco, he is doing the ideal race. Just stay behind Jordi Lopez Jr., try to measure where he is the strongest, where Jordi Lopez Jr. is the weakest, and then perhaps with 3 laps to go, try to attack.
So race leaders now work themselves through that complex once again on the rundown in towards the hairpin. Of course, those corners turn 8 and 9. Very tricky in their own right, and there's so many of the chicanes here. You come out on the exit so close to the wall. A lot of people know the Wall of Champions for that, but pretty much every single chicane, the way you exit the corner, you're basically brushing that wall with the mirrors if you're in a GT car, or in this case, those left or right side tires. Down the back straightaway once again for Diego Francisco, nicely tucked under the rear wing of Jordi Lopez. And is he going to make the move this time? He looks to driver's left, and he's going to maintain some overlap here. So Jordi Lopez going to try to maintain the bottom line, and well, Diego Francisco says this race more than long enough. Thank you, Jordi. I'm going to take the race lead through the Wall Champion chicane. Let's see if they get it through clean. A little bit of oversteer for your new race leader, Diego Francisco. He is easily going to lead these guys to the line as the 3 of Jordi actually might look to push the issue down to corner number 1. He looks inside, but doesn't quite commit to it. I think he could have gone for it there. We've seen people in the past in this series get a little bit patient early on and not take early opportunities, Alvin, and the 3 machine definitely had an opportunity down there into 1. I think he's somewhat lucky that we're on a track like this where you have so much slipstream, but at the same time, when you have an opportunity for the race lead, I think you just need to take it.
And I also think that for Jordi Lopez Jr., I think he had the chance also to defend that position going into the Wall of Champions, but he decided to be the cool person and just let Diego Francisco lead the race for now. Now is the time for Jordi Lopez Jr. to do the exact same thing that Diego Francisco did for the last 3 or 4 laps. Just sit behind Jordi Lopez Jr. Just sit behind Diego Francisco, see where he is the strongest, and then try to attack if he wants to.
Now through this complex once again, corners number 8 and 9, and on the run down in towards the hairpin. Normally you see this as a passing opportunity, but these cars can run through that 8 and 9 complex. It seems so stable that the hairpin really isn't a great place to make moves. Through now this corner number 10 on the racetrack. And of course, there's a slight little kink down the straightaway as well. That's corner number 11 as they work themselves through. Let's see if Jordi wants to take that race lead back, and it's going to be half distance at the end of this lap. Going to be lap 6 of 12 scored complete as the 3 machine of Jordi pulled out of the draft a little early and then looks up high. The 4 machine Diego Francisco takes the line away, and Jordi had the opportunity but lifted way off the throttle. Keep in mind, the 2 machine of Greg Sykes, who's been running in 4th, because these guys are being so patient with one another, Alvin, has slowly clipped his way onto the back of that 3rd place car of Javier Dominguez. That said, he made a little bit of a mistake through that Wall of Champion chicane, and now that time is dropping the wrong way. But because these guys are playing so nice with one another, he's been able to reel them in. I think if you're these race leaders, the quickest way to run this racetrack is to leapfrog every single time you get to the end of the back straightaway. You lead this lap, I lead the next lap. That's the way you need to stretch gaps here, but these guys don't seem keen on working together like that.
Well, there is that possibility, but I'm pretty sure that next week we are going to see that leapfrogging. But before next week, let's focus on this race. And I think, yes, that is the right way to kind of race in this track, to be the fastest. But I think that Diego Francisco and Jordi Lopez Jr., they really see that they don't want to risk anything right now, and that has allowed also Javier Munoz, Dominguez, and Greg Seitz to kind of keep in touch. But it kind of seems like car number 2 is kind of losing touch little by little, and that is very dangerous at this stage of the race.
So it's going to be 5 laps to go once they get to the stripe, up towards the hairpin once again under that Octane Racing bridge, and have another bridge that these guys cross under in just a moment as well, as they work themselves now down in towards the hairpin. Let's see if anyone gets it wrong. The Ford machine of Diogo Francisco, very loose on the entry. This is going to stack Jordi Lopez up behind him just a little bit. So I think that 3 machine in that ERT yellow and black car might just have a look down this straightaway. Going to pull out to driver's left here. They work themselves down the long casino straight once again. Diogo going to basically give the spot up and slot himself into second. Let's see if Dominguez is going to be able to mount a fight for second as they run down in towards chicane. Answer is going to be no. So Diogo is able to maintain that second spot for now as they hop the curbs at the Wall of Champions chicane once again. But Dominguez has a run coming out of that chicane, and he's going to look himself to the outside of turn 1. You can make this move stick if you can maintain good momentum up on the top side, because it spits you out into the inside line for turn 2 through turn 1, and the 11 machine of Dominguez has done it. He's going to take the second spot away, and Diogo Francisco goes from the lead to third in the matter of about 3 corners.
From the lead to third, and also Greg Seitz tried to get a look there to see if he can slot in the last step of the podium, but so far it has been really hard for Greg Seitz to try to keep pace. But Jordi Lopez Jr., amazingly, after taking the lead, he has been able to open a nice 0.6 gap there from car number 11.
So through corners number 6 and 7, and coming now towards that 8 and 9 chicane once again. Dominguez goes a little bit defensive here as Jordi Lopez has been able to open up a bit of a gap because of that fact that that second and third place group was getting really aggressive through that opening complex. So let's see if that 3 machine has enough of a margin that he can maybe stretch something away. But that said, I think Dominguez might just be close enough to have a sniff of the draft, and that's really all you need at this place to be able to reel it in over the course of a lap or 2. Now in towards this chicane once again at corner number 10. Now, is he going to get the perfect drive out of it? 3 machine of Jordi Lopez Jr. looks nice and comfortable. Diogo Francisco doesn't get this snap-in oversteer that he did last time through, and down this long back straightaway. I think that 11 car is indeed getting that bit of slipstream, but not going to be able to close up really closely this time. Evan will be next time through, Alvin has been doing a lot of VN names the last couple of days. They hit the Wall of Champions chicane.
Yeah, now coming here into the last quarter, coming into the Wall of Champions, everybody seems to be running really smooth. I think they can run closer to the wall, but at this stage of the race, I think they don't really want to risk anything. But for Javier Munoz, Diogo Francisco, and Greg Seitz, if they want to get a shot at the win, they will really have to risk a little bit more.
Off towards the front straightaway, we're having a quick look at a little battle in the fight, at least I am, between Picario, Barrison, and Tipton. As we get into the closing stages here, this battle in the midfield has picked up in the later stages. Picario leads this little group in the 7th spot, Barrison 8th, and Justin Tipton still trying to get some sort of recovery after throwing a potential race win away on the opening lap through now this second chicane and into the most interesting corner, I think, on the racetrack. For some reason, I always find this right-hand kink so much fun in so many cars, and it's so difficult trying to keep that car over the right. Granted, I drive big, heavy GT cars. I'm sure in these little light Formula 2000 cars, Alvin, it's pretty easy trying to keep that car pinned to the right side of the racetrack.
It is definitely easier, and when you consider the amount of horsepower that these cars produce, yes, it is a lot easier because you can pretty much go full throttle. You really don't have to worry about the oversteer that you get into that right-hand kink, and especially after that, after you go into the second chicane, that is especially a very important one because that kind of sets you for a relatively short straight, but also very important because if you can get a position or try to mount an attack into that first chicane, then you can get the run into the hairpin and then going into the back straight.
Talking about that run down the back straightaway, the 11 car of Dominguez is going to take a look on Jordi Lopez. Not going to go for it, though. He closed in, and then when he went and got out of the draft, he lifted way out the throttle. 11 car of Dominguez, though, not very good through the wall champion chicane. He took a little bit too much of a bite of that first curb and wasn't able to get to the apex of the second one very nicely. Because of that, he just gave up about 2 or 3 car lengths to that 3 of Jordi Lopez Jr., and I think Diogo could have potentially had an opportunity there, but didn't quite get the chicane right as well. And the 11 machine does a very good job through that corners number 1 and 2 complex to close that gap back down onto the race leader of Jordi Lopez, and now up towards the next couple of corners. That 11 car just needs to maintain the gap. No real big curves through this chicane here. That 11 car is doing a good job, Alvin, to really maintain this gap, and it's going to be 2 laps to go next time at the stripe. I think if you're Dominguez, you need to start fighting for the race lead right now.
And I think now is the time to actually try to get that lead, because the more laps go by, we know Jordi Lopez Jr. is going to do anything in his power to defend that position. And yes, while car number 11 has been pretty much been there all race long, I think it will be really hard for him to try get past Jordi Lopez Jr. That being said, if P1, P2 starts getting too feisty, well, Diego Francisco and Greg Sykes, they are right there as well.
Let's see what's going to happen as these guys work themselves down on the hairpin. We've not seen any moves down at the hairpin just yet, but Dominguez is going to look to the inside of Jordi Lopez Jr., not quite able to get there, and Jordi's going to shut the door because of it. And now you begin the run once again down this long back straightaway. Dominguez has sort of ruined his race, his exit, coming off that corner. So because of that, Diogo Francisco might have an opportunity to make a move here for the second as they now head down towards this wall champion chicane. This time, I don't think he can be passive, and you see they're going to think about going 3 wide into the chicane. This is normally suicide to do this, and Jordi Lopez is going to back out of it, as well as Diogo Francisco. The 11 car keeps his foot planted to the floor. Because of that, he comes away with that with your race lead. Diogo Francisco is also going to keep the fight and the pressure up with Jordi Lopez Jr. run down into the first sequence of corners. We saw the outside reign supreme when Dominguez made this move. Let's see if Diogo could make it work down low. No, he's not going to be able to, I don't think, as the 3 car of Lopez is going to be so strong through the inside line of corner number 2. He's going to maintain that second spot for now, as Greg Sykes is still lurking there in that 4th spot. And now they work themselves through the middle of the racetrack, Alvin, coming to the white here. Next time past the start finish line, and Dominguez has been given a huge lead because of the aggression in turn 1.
And what looked like a big mistake at the chicane ended up paying off for Javier Munoz Dominguez right now, leading the race and having a 0.7-second gap over Jordi Lopez Jr. And I think this is pretty much what he needed, because after they cross the start finish line one more time, it's going to be the white flag, and I don't think that Diogo Francisco is going to be that patient.
Run down towards corners number 8 and 9 right here, right now. The 11 machine of Dominguez nicely hops those curves. 3 cars behind all do as well, but we now have to watch for the run down the back straightaway. How much is Jordi Lopez Jr. going to be able to close on Javier Dominguez, and what is Diogo Francisco going to do? If Diogo decides to take the fight to Jordi, I think you end up giving the 11 machine the win. But if he plays Linus Stern right here, right now, he might open up his opportunity to take that race win down this long back straightaway for the penultimate time. And let's see what's going to happen here. As just looking at the slipstream, everyone's remaining single file thus far. No one's closed up enough to be able to make a move, and because of that, Jordi Lopez is able to close the distance, but may not be enough. He needs to put in a perfect final lap around this place to have any hope. He needs to close the distance before the hairpin as they come across the timing being for the penultimate time.
Coming here for the final lap, Javier Munoz Dominguez in the lead. That lead being cut to 0.25 seconds right now. Jordi Lopez Jr. doing all he can, but also Diogo Francisco not that far behind. Greg Sykes pretty much running in P4. I think there is not much he can do right now, but look for that battle for the lead. Javier Munoz Dominguez and Jordi Lopez Jr. Who's got it all?
Now working through the second chicane, your race leaders all cycled through nose to tail. Greg Sykes has fallen back a little bit. The 3 machine of Lopez scratches that outside wall just a little bit off that second chicane, but nothing too bad. Into the 3rd chicane now. They come with the 11 car. Needs to get it absolutely picture perfect, and everyone looks super strong through here. Run now down this little short shoot straightaway and in towards the 4th chicane. They're going to come. The 3 machine of Lopez Jr. has phenomenally closed the gap over the course of this final lap. No passing opportunity really to be reset here, I don't think, and no one's going to look for it as they work themselves through the quick right flick and now the quick left, using all sorts of curbing through that left-hander. And now it's all about the hairpin. You do not want to get too happy on the throttle pedal. You do not want to get any oversteer on the way into the corner. The three machine of Jordi Lopez Jr. is going to close, and Dominguez, I think, makes a mistake. He goes defensive into the hairpin. The move will never come at the hairpin. It's always going to come down this final back straightaway, and because of that early apex, he ruined his exit speed down this back straightaway. Three machine of Jordi Lopez, he's going to duck out to driver's left, and Dominguez is once again going to take the defensive line in towards the wall of champions. How is Diogo Francisco going to time this? Are they going to be three abreast through the final chicane? They're going to be so down this back straightaway. Who's going to end up being the beneficiary? 11th place car, or excuse me, the number 11 drops to third as Jordi Lopez throws it into the wall of champions chicane, and he's going to win here at Montreal. Diogo Francisco overcooks it, and he might drop back all the way to the fourth spot as Greg Sykes in a phenomenal run to the finish. No, Greg's going to lift out of it for some reason, but Jordi Lopez wins here at Montreal.
What a great race there, all the way to the finish. Javier Munoz Dominguez, definitely a mistake into the hairpin. He didn't need to defend that position at all, but unfortunately, that was his own decision, and well, he pretty much paid the price.
Paid the price for his own call. But with that, let's go down your post-race results after a phenomenal finish here at Montreal. Jordi Lopez Jr. is going to be the big winner here in this one, with Javier Dominguez just barely holding on to second spot. Diogo Francisco takes third, Greg Sykes fourth, and Andre Shibalik, he had a very quiet race, ran his way from 7th to 5th. We didn't talk about him all day. Jamie Simone comes home in 6th, with Daniel Barrison in 7th, Justin Tipton 8th, Andrew Picario 9th, then Julia Prost Albert rounds out the top 10. Carl Dronke, Juan Torres, Jesus Tamero, Jacobo Lopez, Michael Fiedler, and Edwin Valerino. They round out the 16-car field in this one, Alvin, is, well, 11 races thus far. It's been an interesting Skip Barber Championship once again, and we're going to put a cap on it officially next week at Phillip Island.
And that race is going to be really who is the winner that is going to be up in the air, because that race is going to be all about the slipstream. And we think that this race was all about slipstream. Well, this was nothing. Next week at Phillip Island is going to be a game of leapfrog, and who's going to be the winner? Well, we're going to have to find out next week.
Talking about games of slipstream, don't go away here on RaceSpot TV and iRacing Live, because the eSpeed Contender Series is coming at you in under 10 minutes for the season opener. Dark Matter Designs Daytona 300 here in just a couple minutes. The best truck series on RaceSpot TV returns in just a little under 10 minutes. Don't go away.